Okay. I'm going to talk to you about the InDesign template for Project 4. This is an InDesign CS6 file, which is the version, CS6 is the version that the CCNY EDM lab computers all run. If you're running Creative Cloud or CC on your own computer, make sure that you save down when you're done, so that you can use it on the school computers. Now, what this is a single page. It has a placeholder for your icon, which is the same size as your icon, 3-inch square. There's 6 instances of it on a single sheet of paper. So it ranges from 200% size, 100, all the way down to 16% size, which is half an inch square. To be very clear, you need to adjust and perfect your icon so that it works at all the sizes. You cannot make a large version and a small version. You need to have one Illustrator file that you can clearly see at all 6 sizes when you print it out. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to the Type tool. You want to put in your name down at the bottom. It's surprising how many students forget that. You want to put in the set theme, whether your class chose camping or sports or pets or whatever the overall theme is, you put that there, and then your icon idea. Whatever idea you are trying to communicate goes at the bottom. Now, let me show you how to replace these placeholders with your own icon. So, you can go to each icon. As usual, I'm going to show you the hard way first, then I'll show you the easy way. So the hard way, which isn't that hard, but it's time-consuming, you could go to each instance of the placeholder. You could select it with the arrow tool. You could go to File, Layout, Place, and you could choose your icon. Now the problem is it fits the icon to the square. It doesn't bring it in at the same size. So then you have to go in, change that to 200%. You need to make sure that it's centered within the box. And then you'd need to do that 6 more times. So I'm going to undo what I did. And now I'm going to show you the easy way. If we go to the Links palette, Window, Links, we get this. This is a palette that shows all of the linked files in the InDesign document. Now, we have placeholder.ai, that's our file. And because we have multiple instances of it, it appears 6 times in this document. We have this little triangle. If we click that, you can see this first one is at 200% size. This next one is at 100% size, etc., etc. 50%, 30%, all the way down. If you go to the top one, the main one that is not a specific instance, but it's the file itself, and you go to Relink All Instances, which is this chain icon, click it, then you get this file browser and you can choose your icon wherever it is, hit open, and as if by magic you get your file centered in the box at 200%. Now it's a very good idea with the direct selection tool, the white arrow, just click on each one, go to the scaling, make sure it matches the label. 200%, 200%. 100%, 100%. 50, 30, 24, 16. Great, that's wonderful. So now I can print this, and I can see what this file looks like at all the different sizes. I can also create a PDF. I can also package this file. You always want to package an InDesign file, especially when there are linked files within it, because remember, this InDesign file does not actually contain the Illustrator file. If you just gave me this InDesign file, I would just get a big blurry pixely mess, because you need to also give me the Illustrator file. Let me show you how to print, file, print. This is just 8.5 by 11 US letter paper. You should be able to print it on any printer. We're only working in black and white. You don't need a color printout for this job. So you can just print, easy peasy. If you need to make a PDF, this is also very easy. File, export. You choose an Adobe PDF. The print versus the interactive is just fine. You'll notice it keeps the same file name and does PDF instead. And you hit save. Now, what's a good idea, this is still the name of the template, Proj4 Icon Layout. You want to save it as your own name. So, GDC, Proj4. You can put in template or layout if that helps you differentiate it from the Illustrator file, and your last name and first initial. And it will keep the INDD suffix, which means InDesign. So you save that. Wonderful. Now, let's say I have printed this out like a good student, and I have decided that maybe I don't need all of the dots for 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. Or actually, let's do a more real example. Let's say these dots looked great at my 3-inch size. They looked fine at 50%. But when I got down to 24% and 16% printed out, it looked very close to the edge. I just want more room between these dots and the edge. So I'm going to go to Illustrator. I'm going to open up my time icon, and I am going to tweak the position of these dots. And while I'm at it, I'm going to make them slightly smaller too. So I'm just going to, they are 0.27 inches square. I'm going to make them 0.25. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, now these are small changes, but that is often what is needed when you're designing an icon. Little tweaks can make a big difference, especially when you're looking at it at a small size. I might also take my minute hand, make it just a hair shorter, just to give a little bit more room from the edge, and do the same with my hour hand. Just make them shorter. So I'm going to save my file. I'm going to go back to InDesign. And if I go to my top time icon, and I go to Update All Instances, it updates the file in all 6 places, keeping the same scalings. So this makes tweaking and proofing your tweaks really super easy, because you can just keep printing, looking at this in all the sizes, making little adjustments to the single Illustrator file, updating your links palette in InDesign, and just updating all at once. It really makes things easier for you. Now, let's say I have brought this in to my session, and now I'm in part 3 of my project, where I need to make tweaks to the icon to make sure that it works with everyone else's idea. So we have one consistent, coherent icon set. And what has happened is that the overall group decision is to have a more organic look to things. So to try to help with that, I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna make the dots that are not 12 o'clock smaller still, and I'm gonna make the hands of my clock less straight, less rigid. I'm gonna give them some curve. So I will go back to Illustrator. I will make these dots even smaller, 0.15. And now, the way that I drew my hands of this time icon, if we go to outline mode, you can see they are just 2 single lines, and I used the stroke palette and gave them a stroke of 20. With round caps. So that's why they look like they look, but they are only single lines. So I instead want to make something more curvy. I am going to actually remove those round caps. I'm going to make these about half the stroke width so I can really look at them. And I'm going to actually redraw new hands is actually what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do another layer, new hands. So I'm just going to, for the moment, I'm going to turn these hands magenta. I'm just going to make them 1 point stroke, just so I can see where I want my clock hands to be. I'm going to lock my original layer 1, go to my new hands, and I'm going to draw curvy clock hands with the pen tool. So what I'm going to first do is draw these sort of diamond shapes. I am going to give these no stroke, and I'm going to give them a black fill. Alright, so there's one. And I'm going to draw another one here. Another set of curvy hands. Now you may be saying, those aren't curvy at all. What are you talking about? Are you blind, man? No, I'm not. Really. I am going to make these curvy. Alright, so I've taken... I have, just with the pen tool, very simply drawn these diamond shapes. Now I'm going to go back with the pen, go to my pen tool, go to my Convert Anchor Point tool. I'm going to click on these side ones, and I'm going to pull out curve handles. And this is how I get nice, curvy clock hands for myself. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Maybe I will hide the old layers just so I can concentrate on this. So again, I'm going to go here. Now, if you get a situation like this, where you pull out curve handles and it makes this weird, bizarre loop, this just means you want the curve handles to go the other direction. There we go. And like so. You can use these curve handles on any... now, once you have the curve handles, you can then click them with the white arrow, and you can tweak them to your heart's content. So, I want to make this a little bit more of a full curve at the back. I want to tweak where this is so the two sides of the hand look more even. Pretty good. Now you can use this anchor point tool on any anchor point. So let's say I don't want these thick hands to look quite so pointy. I'm going to move this for a second, especially down here. I don't want the bottom to come to such a sharp point. Well, I can use the anchor point tool here, pull out the bottoms a little bit. Now, this anchor point tool always defaults to what they call tangent curves, tangent handles, meaning that the handles are tangent to the curve. If you pull up one side, the other side goes down, and vice versa. The two handles are locked to each other's position relative to the point. You can unlock them from each other. So for this, maybe I don't want it to be... I do want to have still a little bit of a point there. Actually, I like the bottom of these curves of these hands like this, so I'm going to demonstrate it with the top. So, I'm going to go to the top up here. I'm going to pull out curve handles. So that made it a little bit more like I want, but I would still want more of a point. So I can select the point that has my curve handles. I can go back to the Convert Anchor Point tool. You remember, you go to the pen tool, go to the bottom, Convert Anchor Point tool. It looks like this flying V. If you use the Convert Anchor Point tool on a point that already has two anchor points and just pull one down, it unlocks them from each other. So now I can make them do totally different things relative to each other. In this case, I'm going to use it to just give the top of my clock hands I want to keep the point, but I want to have a little bit of a curve. So that was my whole point here. No pun intended. I want not a super thick almond-like point to the hands, but I don't want a super sharp pointy one either, so I have pulled out control handles and I have broken them off from each other, and now I have these two much more organic looking clock hands. Now I think I need a circle here to make this work. So I'm going to copy this circle. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So, very different look from where I was just a short while ago. I want to lock the new hands. I don't want to delete these two just in case I need them later, but I'm going to give them no fill. So basically a line without a stroke or without a fill. It's there, but it's invisible. So this is my new clock icon with more organic looking hands, more curvilinear hands. Maybe this will help me be more in tune with what the rest of the group is doing. Maybe I need to tweak it some more. But for the moment, I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to my InDesign template, click on the links palette, click on the main link, not an individual one, but the main one, and hit update. It's telling me it has different layers. That's because I added a layer. That's fine. And unfortunately, it will tell me for every instance, so you have to click OK 6 times. So there is my revised and updated icon in the template. Quick and easy. I can now print this out. I can compare it to my colleagues in class. We can keep working on it to get towards a coherent icon set.